All right, folks, we're back with another episode of Caution to the Airwaves. I apologize for last week. We did record a podcast. It was unable to get published. We had some software issues, which we're going to solve today. It was just too short timing. You wouldn't have been able to see it, but I mentioned I was going on a vacation. I did it with my brother. It's upsetting. It seemed like a pretty good podcast. We broke down the lead up to UFC 284, Perth, Australia, which we're going to get into that right away. It was a big fight card, big night of fights. Did not disappoint. And yeah, so I mean, like I said, we went on vacation. We'll post a couple pictures for the folks out there that watch this shit. Beautiful Aruba. Everything was great. Can't complain. I don't know if you could see. Got myself a little sun out here. It was beautiful though. But that's neither here nor there. Today is a big day all around. Super Bowl Sunday is today. As you can see, I'm repping big time. My Birds taking on the Chiefs in just a couple hours from now. I'm excited about that. I already got the pregame. Naturally, I went with the natural lime because it's a green flavor. This is the first one of the day, a little pregame. I did my little hike ritual before my big football games. I like to clear the head and mentally prepare for games like this. Yeah, some nice weather out here in New York, so it was nice. It was a nice little hike. I was a little out of shape, ate so much food on vacation, so my heart was about to come through my chest, but I prevailed. I persevered. Just like a lot of fighters did last night on this card. UFC 284, Perth, Australia, it did not disappoint. Like I said, the crowd was electric from the early prelims on. This card was headlined by none other than Islam Makhachev and Volkanovski, Alexander the Great Volkanovski, the pound for pound best number 1, and Islam Makhachev coming in as the pound for pound number 2. First time in history this has happened where the pound for pound 1 takes on the pound for pound 2, and the fight went exactly like that. It literally looked like the absolute best taking on the absolute best. And there's so much to say about this fight. We have to start right here with this fight, because this fight was one of the best fights I ever saw, and not on it was exciting start to finish and had so many moments, very similar to, in a sense, to like the Israel Pereira fight, just because it almost seemed like they were the two very best of kickboxing. Even though they fought in an MMA fight, there was just that tension of these two equally talented guys taking on each other, and that's what this fight felt like. I mean, man, where do we start with this one? I'm just trying to think now, because there's so much to unravel with this fight. Islam Makhachev, the lightweight champion, Volkanovski, the featherweight champion. Volkanovski obviously stepping up to lightweight to take on Islam for his belt. So Islam fighting just to defend his belt. Volkanovski wins. He becomes a double champ, which he would be on a very short list as double champions that we've had in the UFC. And man, it's like it wasn't controversial with the decision, but it was very close. And I saw a lot of people out there thought that Volkanovski did enough to win this fight. I saw a lot of people thinking he won 3 of the 5 rounds, but I don't think anyone was upset with the decision. I don't think you could look at that fight and feel like there was any sort of robbery. Definitely not. I wouldn't say so. Even though at the end of the fight, I was kind of thinking that it wouldn't have surprised me if Volkanovski got the nod. As one, they're in Australia. The crowd was definitely on his side. 2, he's just, so many moments throughout the fight, he was just able to overcome like Islam's wrestling. In the past, Islam Makhachev, everybody this guy has fought, if he gets you to the ground, you're pretty much, he'll submit you within the 30 seconds to a minute being on the ground, or he's just going to ragdoll you until you're tired enough to give up that submission. But pretty much throughout this whole entire fight, Volkanovski was pretty much able to get up from every one of his takedowns, except for one. There was one in the fourth that he was able to hold him down. But Volkanovski the whole time was talking shit, smiling, laughing on his face, saying, like, you know, is that all you got? Throwing punches backwards. Like, that was a pretty epic moment of the fight. Another surprising aspect of this fight was Islam's striking looked really good. He landed very well on Volkanovski. Volkanovski did very well with the leg kicks. It's just like, man, I cannot. I'll put it this way: this fight just happened last night, fresh on my head, and I cannot wait to go back and watch this fight again and again and again. I'm gonna watch this fight multiple times throughout this week, just because one of those fights where, from both guys, it's just extremely motivating and extremely inspiring stuff, man. I mean, it truly was the best fighter taking on the best fighter. And a lot of people would think, like, you know, that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be like an action-packed slobber knocker, back and forth punching kind of fight or whatever, but this was more just like seeing Islam, who's a dominant wrestler, put all his power and all his effort into getting Volk down, and Volk just confidently and using all his strength to get back up and separate and keep the fight standing. Forcing Islam to show more of his striking than he probably would be comfortable doing. And like I said, Islam looked very well on the feet, which was I don't want to say it was surprising. The guy has skills standing, but compared to Volkanovski, I think everybody thought that Volk was just gonna, if it stood standing, he was just gonna outclass him on the feet, which that wasn't the case. It was just an even fight. I mean, there was points of this fight where even Volkanovski was like looking for a takedown or, you know, threatening with one, and almost got Islam off balance and almost got a takedown. So, I mean, and he even said in the post fight that, you know, he felt, looking back in the moment, that if he wanted to try a little harder, he felt like he could have definitely got a takedown. But I mean, that's something that you probably do in a training room or something, where you push it where there's not that many stakes. I mean, this is they're looking to achieve greatness in this fight. This is easily one of the most intriguing, high-staked fights that the UFC has ever put on. And just with saying that alone, I just want to take a side note to say, like, you know, God bless the UFC. The UFC does fight promotion better than anybody. And I say that because it's not about like the glitz and glamours all the time. Sometimes, and it just sometimes happens to fall out that way, because a lot of times that they're just strictly searching for the highest talent out there and making the highest talent compete against the highest talent in the organization. I mean, now there's arguments to like sometimes how they grow people, like the Paddy Pimbletts, the Sean O'Malley's. But, you know, a lot of times these guys come in very young, you know, with a lot of hype, and they want to see what they got. So you kind of got to test them out to see where they stand with the higher talent coming into the organization. But it's a little different with some people. But either way, most times the UFC does not like really put on an easy fight or a gimme fight for anybody. I mean, we just saw Paddy Pimblett, speaking of, take on Jared Gordon. A lot of people thought that was going to be a gimme fight, and Jared Gordon technically should have won the fight. It was a really horrible decision, but Volkanovski came out after this fight saying how he rewatched it in a tweet, and he said how he felt that he did win 3 of the 5 rounds, he thought. A lot of people thought that. I mean, it's very, me personally, it didn't surprise me that Islam won, I guess. And I really feel like it was because a lot of Islam's striking was effective, and it was causing damage. But I mean, if you go off the eye test, well, I guess Volk did have a few cuts on his face, so it's hard to say. But Islam was banged up too. He had knots all over his head. He had a black eye, maybe possibly a broken orbital bone. I mean, his eye was really black and blue and puffy. Man. And Volkanovski landed 70 significant strikes in this one, which they came out and said was easily the most, like by a landslide, the most that Islam's ever taken in a fight ever. I mean, Islam usually just straight dominates start to finish anybody, and he's done that against top tier in the lightweight division. So for Volkanovski to come up from featherweight to lightweight and perform the way he did, you know, it just shows how great that guy really is. And if anything, it was one of those things where I felt that Volkanovski, even with like the loss, the way his performance was, almost still solidifies him as the pound for pound best. Because, I mean, pound for pound really just means within your rightful weight class that you are the best compared to everyone else in their rightful weight class. And in this fight, the featherweight stepped up and, I mean, in a lot of people's eyes, did enough to get the win, but at the very least gave Islam the toughest fight of his life. And it was something to watch, man. It was spectacular. The energy was high. The crowd was great. I mean, I was losing my shit the whole entire fight. Yelling 1:30 in the morning, just yelling in my house. Yeah, and like I said, I can't wait to go back and watch this a few other times. I'll probably come back on the next podcast and let you know what I really, after I get a few times under my belt watching it, let you know what I really felt, who I really felt, if I was judging, who I would have thought won. It's hard for me to say. Like, after the fight, I was saying, especially being in Australia, Volkanovski ending up on top. I mean, if this fight goes a 6th round, Volkanovski was going to win it. Islam was done. He was tired. And, you know, but you can't really say that because these people train for 5 fights and they empty the tank when they need to empty the tank sometimes. You know, if there's 6 rounds, you never know how someone may train or how someone may fight. But put it this way, in this fight, if it was going any longer, Volk was going to end up on top and the victor, whether by finish or decision. Either way, it was trending his way all the way at the end, which, you know, in other organizations in the past, Pride and all that other stuff, Volkanovski would have easily won that fight because he ended the fight, you know, on top. So yeah, and I mean, truly greatness was on display with this one. It was super high level, and, you know, I'm just grateful for organizations like the UFC to put on fights like this, because as my favorite sport, my most, you know, it's one of my biggest, you know, interest in my life is this sport, because of just the roundedness. It's like it's a version of life, you know, when the fight game, you know, it's high stakes, it's high risk, and, you know, it's a high mental game, and I feel like all that stuff applies to life. So and I'm just grateful that we get to see, you know, the highest level fighters take on the highest level fighters, especially in the UFC. Yeah, so that was that. And then in the co-main event of this, we had the interim belt on the line for the featherweight. Obviously, Volkanovski going up for the lightweight, so they decided to do an interim between YAIR Rodriguez and Josh Emmett. And so now YAIR Rodriguez, oh my God, this guy put on a performance of a lifetime. This guy is another guy who just seems to continuously be getting better. He has such a strong ground game. Like, he is dangerous off his back, as we'll get to, because, you know, that's literally how the fight ends. So coming into this, you know, I mean, both guys seem to have a pretty tough weight cut coming into this too. Josh Emmett looked like freaking Skeletor, and YAIR was wearing the sunglasses, you know, which I thought, so I don't know what happened, but weirdly enough, YAIR, it seemed like he missed weight at the first weigh-in, and I don't know what happened. I was watching it live. This is why I'm saying this, but they were saying, like, oh, he was like 1.5 pounds over, which is not eligible for making weight when it comes to a title fight. And what do you call it? The Commission of Australia, you only apparently get one attempt to make weight. You don't get to come back and do another one. But then for the ceremonial weigh-ins, they said he did weigh in and make weight. So maybe I missed something along the way. I was cooking dinner, but I was paying attention. So I don't know. That was a little weird. But either way, I mean, it was only 1.5 pounds either way. But and in any other place, he would have had a second chance to weigh in anyway, which I'm sure maybe that's what they gave him, was just a second chance. I don't know. But either way, it didn't seem to affect him at all because he was, typical Yair, as free and lucid as can be. Man, this guy, we were saying, this guy, like, first of all, a Mexican fighter, so he already comes equipped with a chin. And usually, Mexican fighters, they use their toughness and their chin. And granted, like, a lot of them are amazing fighters and some of the best. But Yair is just, he has a high-level IQ in the fight game. And you just see it. I mean, you saw in his past fights, too. He did super well against Max Holloway, has put beat the brakes off a lot of fighters, a lot of the greats, if anything. He's also had a lot of weird happenings in his fights too, like eye pokes with Jeremy Stevens. That fight was the disqualification or whatever, no contest. Brian Ortega with the shoulder popping out. What's up? Good. And yeah, so Yair, he was like a man on a mission tonight. Last night. Just start to finish, amazing performance. And now because of this, he's the interim featherweight champion, and now Volkanovski is going to probably come back down the featherweight and take on Yair Rodriguez, and that's going to be almost equally as intriguing as the Islam fight, simply just because of the different style that Yair Rodriguez is. And Volkanovski usually gets it done on the feet, and Yair is extremely dangerous on the feet, and extremely dangerous off his back. So this fight went to the second round. Josh Emmett landed a nice shot in the first round that's stunned Yair a little bit, but it didn't seem to be in too much danger, recovered very quickly. And then the second round comes out. Yair goes right back to work. He's just too fast, too unpredictable, too good for Josh, it seemed. And then he had a slip and he fell, ended up on his back. Josh Emmett took advantage, ended up on top. But Yair just, like I said, this dude's deli off his back, man, was like throwing up arm bars, triangle, back to arm bar. The arm bar wasn't there, goes back to the triangle, locks in a triangle, super tight triangle, and just, gets the tap out of Josh Emmett. So fairly easy fight for Yair, it seemed. Josh Emmett was, too slow and just not able to get it done. But Yair Rodriguez is now the interim featherweight champ, probably going to take on Volk, and that's just going to be a really interesting fight too. I hope they do it this year. I'm sure they'll do it this year. Both guys didn't seem to be too hurt after the end, even though Volk went 5 rounds. So that's going to be really interesting when that happens. And Yair Rodriguez, man, it was just that was easily his, like, probably his best performance. And it's hard to say that because his best performance, a lot of people would probably say is against Max Holloway, even though he lost, just how well he did against Max Holloway. But something about this fight, granted it was against Josh Emmett, but just the way he was moving, everything just looked a little bit crisper. Like, you could just see the progression in his game. He is getting better and better every fight, and that's scary for a guy from Yair who came into the UFC already a deadly guy. So really interesting there. Can't wait to see what happens with that fight. And he was calling for it to be done in Mexico too, that would be very cool. I would love to see that. Now make Volk just went to Australia, got to fight in Australia, and we didn't know what happened, but now Yair, the interim champion, maybe they bring it back to Mexico City and have it in Mexico, and let's see what Volk's got there. So that would be sick. Another amazing fight. Like I said, this main card was just start to finish bangers. And another really good prospect, Jack Della Maddalena, another Australian native. A lot of Australians on this card, but took on Randy Brown. So this seemed to be the step up in competition to see where Jack Della stands. Even coming into this one, we were saying like Randy Brown, 6'3", extremely tall for what are they, welterweight, right? Or welterweight, 6'3", very tall for a welterweight. Extremely long, rangy, very good jiu-jitsu in Randy Brown. But Jack Della, I said coming into this fight that Jack Della, his boxing, his confidence, he was saying even coming into this how he was hoping to show his ground game because how much, better or how good he feels his ground game is. I feel like he thinks people sleep on it. And against Randy Brown, it would have been very interesting to see. But Jack Della got it done how he always gets it done, by first round TKO. And man, he put Randy Brown. He gave Randy Brown the chicken legs. It was a wild sight to see. Landed just a beautiful. Now what was it? Was it right? Just trying to think. I think it was a left hook. Just landed flush on Randy Brown and just like sent him on Queer Street, as they say, and gave him the chicken legs. He did the most wild like somersault on his face and was able just to get the ground and pound and got him out of there. Jack Della is a monster, man. And welterweight division is just stacked, man. So let's see. What was Randy Brown? Can you click that again? Was Randy Brown ranked? No, I don't think he was, which is interesting. Tell you what, Jack Della, they need to give him another big step up because this guy is as good as it gets right now in that division. And who knows? We could be looking at a future champion by as early as next year. So I just felt Jack Della, man. Yeah, I was just trying to think if there was anything. I didn't take notes on this, but yeah, maybe it'll come up to my head. I thought something else about that fight I wanted to say, but before this, New Zealand native Justin TAFA took on Parker Porter, the American, and got it done in his typical fashion, which was a first round knockout, clean as can be, and did it in typical. Did it in like the great Mark Hunt once did. Justin TAFA is starting to seem like the next Mark Hunt. I mean, same tattoos, same part of the world. You could obviously feel the Mark Hunt influence there. This guy is starting to perfect that one-hit knockout, that one-hit walk-off that Mark Hunt used to do. Landed a beautiful shot on Parker Porter, put him down. And he knew it. He just walked off right after. So, I mean, not really much to break down here. Justin TAFA is a bad man. I remember he landed like a crispy left. Like he threw the left like he was like a welterweight or maybe a middleweight. But either way, it was a heavyweight, a big heavyweight throwing that. Justin TAFA also the only fighter in the UFC at heavyweight to miss weight. So, pretty interesting fact there. I mean. So sneaky, those Samoan, those Islanders, they got a different bone density, man. Because he doesn't look that big when he's in there, but just dense as can be, I guess. Beautiful walk-off knockout. Shout out Justin TAFA for that one. And this card started off with a fucking banger with Jimmy CRUTE and Alonzo MENFIELD. Back and forth fight. MENFIELD landing good on Jimmy, putting Jimmy in all sorts of trouble. Jimmy fighting through the trouble, getting takedowns to recover. And both guys were just extremely tired at the end of this one. It was so back and forth. MENFIELD just seemed like he had nothing left to give at the end. I personally thought Jimmy CRUTE should have got this decision, but it ended up going to a majority draw, which makes sense because in the third round, so MENFIELD was hurting Jimmy CRUTE in the first two rounds. Even though Jimmy CRUTE was getting takedowns and control time, MENFIELD was getting knockdowns, and usually the judges, that's really what they look for first is strikes landed, damage, knockdowns. Those things are the biggest point getters when it comes to the judging in fights. But I thought Jimmy CRUTE did enough to get. I think he should have got the nod. But if you're gonna go, I guess you could see how it would make sense because MENFIELD was doing a lot of damage in the first two rounds, so that would give him the first two rounds right there, 10-9, 10-9, and then in the third round, MENFIELD, what did he do? I think he landed a really. Oh, I know what happened. Yeah, Jimmy CRUTE was gonna take him down to the ground, and MENFIELD grabbed the cage. and a really bad cage grab, and that cost you a point. It costed him a point in this situation, and Jimmy CRUTE was beating him the whole round, so essentially Jimmy CRUTE was going to get a 10-9 anyway. You take the point away, it becomes a 10-8, so that evens out the first 2 rounds to be a majority draw. So it's not like it wasn't confusing why that was a draw. I get it. It made sense, but I still think that whether it was the first or the second, I thought they could have given Jimmy one of those rounds just simply because, damage or not, he fought through and was able to get the takedown, to get the more control, and inflict some good damage. So, but it is what it is. Ain't mad at it. Maybe I'm just a little mad at it because I had him in one of my parlays. Granted, a draw just kind of null and voids the that one fight for your parlay, but basically it took away $50, what could have been like a better win in my parlay. Still got the win on the parlay, by the way. Yeah, and follow my social media if you're watching this, and look for my picks on fight nights, because I started to add my locks, and a lock being which fights I think that I'm very confident in saying who the winner will be. And so far, so good on my locks. I mean, sometimes I go with my heart on picks and whatnot, but a lock to me is a guarantee. Jack DELLA was a lock for me. Luke Bunmi, who was on the early prelims of this fight, was a lock for me. And who's my other lock? Was it Justin TAFA. And I just thought because Justin TAFA had more, even though they're heavyweights and anything can happen, just, Australia, his backyard. This guy has fucking fast hands for a heavyweight and also has great cardio as well. So, so Australia did not disappoint, man. The fights throughout, even the prelims were lit. Tyson Pedro took on Makhachev. Makhachev came out with the decision win. It was it a split decision? No, unanimous decision. Yeah, that was a close one. Makhachev, I thought, did the better landing on the feet, so I could see why I went to him. A lot of great fights in this. Keep scrolling down. Keep going. Jamie Malarkey came out victorious. Hard fought win. Jack Jenkins. Go back up. Jack Jenkins, Don Shanis was a amazing fight. It definitely didn't win fight of the night because the main event got fight of the night, but Jack Jenkins, man, we have a future star in this guy. The crowd loved him. Australian native. Don Shanis, though, did his thing too. It was a very back and forth, but Jack Jenkins was just the better fighter in that one. Like I said, Luke Bunmi, the Muay Thai fighter from Thailand, just outclassed Elise Reed easily. Keep going. Shane Young, Wilder, that was kind of disappointing. I thought he was a little timid, a little gun shy against Builder. But Blake Builder is no joke either. That guy, I mean, I should be giving him more of the credit because he did fight well. And then in the fight, the card started off with Zabira Tukagov and Alievs Brenner, it was his debut, Brenner, fighting out of Brazil. And I thought this was a horrible decision. I mean, you tell me. Go watch that fight, ESPN Plus. Get at me in the comment section and tell me that Tukagov didn't win that fight. One of the judges even gave Brenner 30-27 to Brenner, and I thought Tukagov had an argument to be 30-27. So I don't know what the fuck they were watching. I mean, right then and there, I thought the judges were going to be on some bullshit all night, which they low key kind of were. Depending on how you look at it, but that fight, I don't care who you are or how you look at it, Tukagov won that shit. So and I wasn't looking to have a big betting night, but I was watching the live odds on that one, and I felt confident at one point where the odds were, and put a nice little bet on Tukagov. I was going into the decision extremely confident, like I'm starting on top, and they just fucked me. So that was horrendous judging. Don't know what they were watching, and everyone agreed. The commentators, everybody was talking about it. So yeah, I mean, that was UFC Australia, UFC 284, and it was, like I said, did not disappoint. Crowd was amazing. Definitely crowd of the year so far. I mean, the amazing main event that was Volk and Islam. Maybe we'll see them run it back in the future after Volk goes back down, maybe defends his belt once or twice. Islam does his thing, clears out the rest of the lightweights. We could easily see them rematch, and I would love to see them rematch anytime, anytime, anywhere. If it was the next fight they made, I wouldn't even be mad at it. But I think it should be. I think it should be Volk YAIR next though, because that's an interesting matchup too, and they got to get that one out of the way. Yeah, and that's that on that. Close the book on UFC 284 Australia. Moving on to next week. This was some breaking news last night. It was supposed to be Erin Blanchfield taking on Taila Santos as the main event headline of this UFC Fight Night coming up next Saturday in Las Vegas. Taila Santos fell out to an injury, and who steps in? The gangster she is, Jessica Andrade. I mean, shout out Jessica Andrade, one, because Jessica Andrade was number 3 ranked, stringing together some amazing wins. One notable alone was the standing guillotine on Amanda Lemos, who is no one to scoff at. She in her own rightful way was on her way to a title fight, Lemos, and Andrade just derailed that. Put together a few wins and got herself right back in the title picture. And now, she steps in against the dangerous prospect that is Erin Blanchfield. And that's just a gangster move. Like, putting basically like your trajectory on the line, your possible title fight on the line to fight a really dangerous prospect in Erin Blanchfield, who's also ranked number 10. So, but at the same time, I think this is also one of those situations where, the UFC pretty much tells Jessica, like, listen, if you go in there and you beat Erin Blanchfield, and especially do it in style, you're going to get the title fight, because she's, regardless of what she's ranked, her talent level speaks for itself and is enough to justify a title fight. And I 100% agree with that. So I'm assuming that that's what they're doing. I'll make my picks at the end of this so we can make a little short for you guys. I'll do my picks on the main card, and we'll do that after. So scroll down. Who else we got on this card? Jordan Wright, Zach Pauga. Okay. I like Jordan Wright a lot. I already know I'm going with that one. These two, I've seen Josh Parisian, but Jamal Pogus, he must be he looks familiar. He's definitely a Contender Series guy. All right, William Knight, Marcin Percino, from Poland. Nice. Okay, keep going. Jim Miller, Alexander Hernandez. Fun fight, and I like that kicks it off. Just scroll down. I just want to take a quick peek at the. All right, Joe Selecki's on the card. Keep going. Lena Landsberg, Bueno Silva. Okay, keep going. Jamal Emmers. Keep going. OSP. Fighting Felipe Lin. That's a good fight, especially for the prelims. Keep going. All right. Yeah, a lot of prospects, a lot of Contender Series guys. All right, go back up. Let's where we at? Where we at time wise on this one? Okay, cool. All right, so let's do our picks on this one, huh? Here we go. You want to time it? Fly, Eagles, fly, baby. I apologize if the energy's a little low. Like I said, I went for a hike, and I haven't went for a hike in a while, and it beat the shit out of me. I was not. I was ready for it, but I wasn't ready for it. It felt amazing. I'm happy. Got that out of my system, but that's why I'm trying to, spike the energy with this hard seltzer. All right. So let's get it going. I'm sure I could do this quick. UFC Fight Night picks, starting with the main event. Jessica Andrade taking on Erin Blanchfield. I'm going to say that Jessica Andrade gets it done. And that's a lot. That's saying a lot. Let's just move on from there. Jordan Wright taking on Zach Pauga. I think Jordan Wright is just is one of these guys that's getting better and better. Got to go Jordan Wright on this one. Josh Parisian taking on Jamal Pogus. I'm going to go Jamal on this one. I think the younger, more talented fighter, Josh Parisian, not really wowing me on this one. I'm going Jamal on this one. William Knight, Marcin Parchinio, Poland guy. Got to go Poland on this one. Let's go Marcin. Jim Miller, Alexander Hernandez. One time for Jim Miller. Just because I fucking want him to win so bad. That one I'm going with my heart. Jim Miller all day. And that's the picks on the main card right there. Yeah, so I mean, what else we got? We got coming up very soon the John Jones, the return of John Jones and Cyril Gane. Go to the UFC website, please. Oh, am I done what? Oh, touch the wire. My bad. Can you just go to the events for? Yeah, I just want to read up what's coming up. See what's coming up in the near future, eh? Krylov, Span after the Andrade fight. That's a good fight to see where Span's at. Krylov, it'll be a big win for him, the Ukrainian. And then so 3 weeks from now, we got John Jones gone. No weeks off in between all these fights either, by the way. So we got Andrade, Blanchfield next Saturday. This week, I should say. Then the week after, Krylov, Span, headlining that card. And then we got Jones gone, which that card is stacked. Few title fights on that. Valentina stepping up again, defending her belt. And then after that, we got Piotr Yan taking on Merab, which was made recently. That's a fun fight. And also a 5-rounder, headlining the card. So amazing. And then we go right back to London, to the O2, to watch Leon defend his belt against Kamaru Usman in his backyard. I mean, the UFC schedule this year is really special. The first quarter has been amazing. This might be the best quarter of fights. I mean, as he's scrolling, I'm looking at this. We got Cheeto Vera, Sandhagen, Pereira, Adesanya, which is going to take place in Miami. Masvidal's on that card taking on Burns. And then after that, you got Max Holloway taking on Arnold Allen. So, I mean, this has seriously been a great year, a great start to the year. The UFC has been putting on some amazing fights, and yeah, it's definitely not disappointing, and I can't wait to break these down and talk about them because there's going to be a lot to talk about, especially with these intriguing matchups. Yeah, so I think it's time for me to say my goodbyes. I'm praying to the football gods. Actually, I said this in my little prayer at the top of the mountain today as I did some sun salutations. And I just at the end, my little intention was simply, I'm not sitting there begging for a win, asking for a win. I simply just want the best team to win. And as corny as that is, as cliche as that is to say, I just don't want any fuckery. I don't want any weird thing. I don't want any ref. I just want the winner of today to be the best team, the better team. And I want to be able to watch the game and say that's a fact. I could be okay with my team losing as long as I know that we were not the better team that night. But what do I think is going to happen? I think we are, in general, the better team. If you look on paper, I think we're the better team. And I think that Jalen Hurts is coming into this with a chip on his shoulder. Patrick Mahomes got the MVP. Rightfully so. He deserves it. But, I mean, Jalen Hurts has been having an amazing season. And I think he's going to come in with a little chip on his shoulder. I think the defense is going to come heavy. I think we're going to be putting Patrick Mahomes on his heels all game. I think he's going to have the best game of his life in order to beat us. And, I think even then that might not be enough. So let's go, baby. Fly, Eagles, fly. I can't wait to turn the fuck up and watch all this, the shenanigans in this game that's going to go down. So with that being said, much love. Till next week. Peace.